Okay, podcast 1313. I'm Dave. This is my good friend Spark, who I'm not going to say anything slanderous about. See, you're about to
That's
cut me
good.
off and stop me, but I wasn't going to say anything bad.
Yeah, I was prepared, but
You had to think better of me, Spark.
yeah, okay, yeah, all right. Mm-hmm. You're put a shit post in somewhere. I'm prepared,
It's going to be lying in wait, like a fucking mine.
like a landmine. I'm gonna step
Mm-hmm.
over it. You're gonna giggle like a little schoolgirl. I know how this cookie crumbles.
Okay, but we both read Han Solo at Star's End now by Brian Daley. And Spark, what are your impressions on the book, having read it for the first time?
Well, it was actually quite good. Like I didn't expect it to. I mean, it is a short read. I thought it was longer because of the like I told you before, like the format I was reading it in, but it wasn't too bad. Like it was well paced. Like you have Han kind of gun running at the beginning on that one planet doing some like maneuvering with the lava, but he didn't want to get into like what the aliens were like, fighting against the corporate authority. Then he meets with Jessa, which is proto Leia,
That's
and
basically what she is. Like,
yeah,
I think it's because like I think only the first movie was out. Leia was like the only model of love interest for Han. So for every female, he's obviously got to be some like hard-headed, tough, take no shit woman for him to fall in love with.
well, that's like with the EU. Like most of the girls have to be like really hot and like redhead and have like green eyes, like
Mm-hmm.
Mara Jade. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like the
It's
Mara
like
Jade
it's
syndrome.
like there's templates of females in Star Wars. You can't differentiate from it.
Yeah, because if you don't, I mean, then it's not as popular. It has to be redheaded. They have to be have blue or green eyes. Now that's.
Mm-hmm. Occasionally a little blonde, like Jess, but they still have to have the proto Leia personality.
Yeah, it's like there's personalities that they have to fall into.
Mm-hmm.
That's made a lot with the EU. I'm guessing the I guess Disney can and kind of get rid of that, but then yeah,
Yeah, I'm not keeping up with whatever the templates are for females in the Disney canon.
I don't even I
Well,
don't even
it
know.
seems to be black women with the side cuts.
Yeah, didn't Sloane have that?
Oh,
Kind of,
actually,
kind
well,
of.
no, she didn't have a side cut.
Oh, okay, but then she like disappear. The First Order started like appearing.
Yeah, they were going somewhere with that, but the filmmakers don't care about whatever the secondary material is, so it went nowhere.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, continue on. What did you think? Let me ask you this question: When let's fast forward ahead, like in the book, towards the harvester kind of like escape that they had to escape during that facility, meeting the some of the characters there. What do you think about the grain field chase?
Mm, see, rereading this for the second time, I could picture it a lot clearer in my head. Because this time around, I picked up on like the descriptive detail of when they're in like one of the harvester vehicles and they're like racing through this giant fucking field of grain and shit, and it's like spewing all over the windows, and Han's like dipping his head out because they can't see around them while they're trying to escape, so he has to dip his head out to see if he can make out anything, and he's just describing like cereal oats and shit flying past his head. It's pretty neat.
I thought was really neat is like if they were on like the tractor beam of that dreadnought, and they
Oh yeah.
released like the grain and it kind of messed up the shit, allowing them to kind of escape in a way, which is pretty cool if you think about it. Like the grain in space, you know, it's pretty neat.
I mean, it's a pretty inventive way to get out of the dreaded tractor beam situation. Because like whenever you get your heroes in a tractor beam, they're either going to get captured or they need to devise some way to get out of it so the plot can keep going. And they actually did it twice in Star's End. It was the first time when he was on Daroon, and it was a smaller type vessel, but he got out of it by pulling a bluff with the whoever was captaining the corporate sector vehicle by run like he likes. Okay, so this is another thing. So tractor beams, I always assume like you're stuck in place but you can't move. But in the first instance, when Han is in a tractor beam, he can't move out of the tractor beam, but he can like ride the beam of it towards the enemy ship. They're threatening to crash it.
Yeah, I think they changed. Like this book, you have to think is like in the
Mm-hmm.
'70s. So like I kind of think again this is when Star Wars was getting that identity. So like I didn't think they thought of like probably like other sci-fi media like you stuck in place. But I guess they have some liberty if you can like ride the beam. But normally, I think now,
Yeah, I think
like in
that's more
modern, like
solidified.
you're kind of boned. You can't move because you have to think like the people making these you know tractor beams. Like if the ship that you have is able to like ram your ass, it's kind of like a design flaw. Like maybe we shouldn't have it like that.
Yeah.
Because I can see that being used in so many creative ways. Like have like a missile getting shot and
Mm.
fucking up the tractor beam array.
That actually reminds me that there's a moment in the Thrawn trilogy where Luke is caught in a tractor beam by the Chimera, and he devises
Yes.
some way to get out of it, but I forget the specifics.
Luke did some sort of shit. That's what he crash landed on that planet that had um because I listened to the audiobook. What was his name?
Who, Talon Card?
Yeah, Talon Carter, the guy who sounded like Zorro. Yeah, and that's when Mara had like a hate boner for Luke for like an entire like good
Yes.
3 to 4 chapters. I hate Luke. So it came Mara we get the first time.
Nah, Zahn just had to reiterate it.
Yeah, that was good. Good fucking. But anyway, we're
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I wanted to talk about Darun, the planet in the beginning, because it opens up with Han already running the guns there, and he gets past, like, I think he comes under the censor of some corporate authority like base that was on Darun, and there's this cool image where he's trying to get to his drop off point, and he like turns the ship vertically, and he goes through this tiny crack in like a mountain. He's getting to like this hidden little enclave area where it's got like this cool waterfall and all these thick 20-meter high ferns and shit covering the area.
Yeah, he also gives a gun lesson to the people he's dropping off weapons to like these displaced workers that got fooled by the corporate sector.
Yeah, I tried looking up if they had any info on the Wook, which they did not, but their description was it kind of stood out to me the second time around I read this book, because they're like short, they're kind of roundish. I think they described with long arms and like big eyes. Like I just imagine big cartoony eyes. Like they look kind of fucking cornballish, picturing it. So it's just funny to imagine Han passing out these fucking rifles to them like the fucking Viet Cong.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, they kind of get like the shit end of the stick here because, like I
Yeah.
said, the corporate sector kind of promised these, funky looking aliens the work, but in reality, they're just being used as slaves. But I mean, I kind of felt sorry for him, but I can understand when he didn't want to get involved.
He hooked them up with some decent blasters too. I think they like were described as having bayonets. They had scopes on them too, and little what are those things called? Why am I blanking on it? That lets you heft them on your back. The little straps.
Yeah, you mean the slings?
Yes, slings. That's the word. See, this is why I keep you around, Spark.
Yeah, but it like he described where like he pretty much told them they have to control their fire because unlike the corporate security guys, like the ESPOs is what they called them in this, they could just fire fully automatic. So it'd be better just to single shot, which is kind of smart in a way.
It's pretty damn smart. Not gonna
If
lie.
if you're fighting against an enemy like that, you kind of have to conserve ammo because you're not going to have a lot of ammo if you're on the middle of the tunnel.
And also differentiates who's ally and who's foe if they hear distant gunfire.
That's true, very true. Because in this book, multiple times the corporate security they do love their auto fire.
Yes.
They certainly don't you know conserve ammo. They definitely go balls out on that.
They go ham, if it will.
Hammer. It was pretty cool. They also described. I remember in the other time we talked about the E-web type of emplacements. They also had like the heavy blaster, emplacements they're putting down, and they even said in the book talking about the kind of like the little deflector shield. And actually,
Yes.
Han got saved by that, like a deflector shield when they were trying to escape before the harvesting chase. He was pinning down like a whole bunch of those security group people using the heavy blaster rifle was pretty cool.
Yeah, I wrote that down as a note actually, in the Oron 3 section when they're in that shootout that he used the deflector shield. So yes, I'm glad you picked up on that because that was pretty fucking cool.
That was fucking yeah. That's what I mean. It's like yeah, there's. I mean, the heavy blaster emplacements are pretty cool. I mean, setting them up's a bitch, but I mean, if they have their own deflector shields, I mean, you never see that in the movies, but like you can see why they're pretty much like
You know,
really
I
cool.
was reading a little bit about good old Brian Daley here. He wrote a book that was about an APC unit in Vietnam getting transported to a fantasy land. And like I was just wondering myself if he had like personal military experience because he does have. I kind of get the impression as like an author, he might have some type of military background with, Han dispensing his knowledge there of the guerrilla fighting and the use of the clever use of the deflector shield. I just wonder.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't one of your other like really like favorite Star Wars authors a has a military background?
Is this a bant about fucking Karen Travis?
Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, it is Karen Travis. You know, like isn't that your favorite author? You said
And you said I was going to be placing the fucking shitpost mines, and here you are setting one off.
Karen Travis,
No, what?
one
See,
of the
you're
best.
saying Karen Travis is my favorite author when you have one of her fucking Gears of War novels mounted on your fucking wall in your room.
Okay, one, it's not mounted. Two, I didn't know who Karen Travis
No, no,
was
you
when I
had that
bought it.
shit mounted and laminated, everying, put in fucking carbonite.
Did I have that shit bronzed as well? You
Yes,
know,
gilded, bronzed.
the fuck bullshit. The book wasn't bad though. Like to be honest with you,
Yeah,
like
I believe it because I've read 3 of her Repcon books so far, and 2 of them are good, and one was kind of shit.
yeah, she didn't like. I know she's like notorious for her Mando wink, but like the Gears of War book was fine. Like when I read it, I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. Because I only bought it. I bought that with the Thrawn trilogy, so I was like, I might as well just read this. Because that's when Gears of War was popular back in the day. So I was like, I'll read it. Getting
Yeah,
immersed. Because I liked the first. Oh, I don't know if you want to get into that, but I'm gonna just say this: the first Gears of War, like the atmosphere, I didn't enjoy that
hmm
entire thing.
I remember the checkpoints were brutal.
Yeah. Remember the multiplayer was fun too, but it pissed me off.
Well,
Everybody using
fucking
shotguns.
yeah, the multiplayer that never changed. That was for every Gears of War, and that always pissed me off.
Oh my god.
But yeah, Karen Travis is like a competent author, but I get a lot of the hate around her. But you can't deny that she's a decent writer when she wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a big Mando fan, she's definitely the go-to.
Oh god,
She loves Mandalorians and clones.
it goes beyond love.
Yeah, she's either she wishes she was married to a clone, or she wishes she was a clone and or a Mandalorian. Maybe both.
Yeah, she's a strange one. But where was I going with this? I was talking about Daron. We went through the Vietnam stuff. Yeah, I guess moving on past that, after he delivers the shipment of carbines, he gets into the situation where the smaller corporate sector vehicle tries to tractor him. He breaks out of it by calling the commander's bluff and almost ramming the ship. Then he arrives at the next planet, Eddy 4, I believe it was. I think it's like one of the main, like regular city planets on the corporate sector. Oh yeah, a fun note about his payment. They paid Han in like gems and like stones and stuff, as opposed to like regular credits, which he was then able to go and turn into a corporate sector money voucher, because the corporate sector like doesn't use regular credits mainly. They have like their own special little vouchers and own special credits, I think.
Yes. This is pretty neat, but then again, if you leave the corporate sector, you're kind of screwed. So you kind of
Yes.
have to spend that there.
Yeah, Brian Daley did pretty good on the world building of the corporate sector. Like they actually feel like a mix of the empire, but with this soulless corporate aspect to them. Forcing the voucher. It kind of reminds me of Shadowrun, that setting with the way you have a corp script as opposed to regular money.
You know, since you mentioned that, it kind of reminds me of, like I said, like Cyberpunk 2077. That sort of like that world, because 77 is is made by what's his name? It's my mind's blanking.
Oh, Mike Pondsmith.
Yeah, like his universe, the cyber. It's like these corporations are like really big, and they can pretty much do whatever they want, and that's what I'm getting from the corporate sector. It's kind of like that. Like these corporations are so huge, they can feel like armies, and do whatever they want. And everybody who lives underneath of them are kind of like powerless. Like if you read the book, you like different colonies have been like swallowed up by these these people.
Mm-hmm. A
So like
lot.
they're
I
not
think they
like
describe
yeah.
like tens of thousands of worlds.
Yeah, that's what Han was saying. Like it's pretty, like all these species that you don't really regularly see like live within the corporate sector because it's like the corporate sector is in it's like different like corner of the galaxy. Like it's not really like you're going to go through it a lot. There's not like popular hyperspace lanes like in the mid rim to like whole worlds area. It's like its own little section. You
They're
literally
still
have to like
beholden
go
to
there.
the Empire. Interestingly enough, because I remember when I was reading through one of the D6 books, it describes the whole power structure of the corporate sector and how it's set up from like the regular managers to way at the top where the main
Yeah,
council is, and they mentioned there's like a special position for an Imperial who's basically just there to watch them.
yeah. I mean, are they really going to try to go against the Empire at that point? Like they're going to get steamrolled.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'll save that thought for later because I want to get through the Eddie section because what else? What did I write down here? On Eddie, we see Han. Oh yeah, so he goes and he basically reports to Pluvo 2 for 1 that he's completed the job, and he gives him his half of the voucher. But Han is a dick, and he leaves like a little animal in it that bites Pluvo.
Yes, he had to make sure like this animal is described as like really vicious. Like it's small, but it has like this Napoleon complex. Like it can take on like a bigger like animal, and it has supposedly it's like venomous and like it emits this like really like smelly ass like secretion or something like that. Is
Hmm.
what I got from it. But he had to make sure it was veined or defanged for its venom. But it was still a little vicious little bastard running around. But it was pretty neat what he did with that.
Hmm. Did you pick up on the hut named Big Bungie in his interaction with Pluvo that he mentioned?
I don't know. I didn't really pick up too much on that.
Yeah, that's actually a dude who appears way later in the Vong War during like two Han focused novels. So yeah,
Is it?
it's a deep cut that they pull from.
Is he a stereotypical hut? And he's all evil and rubbing his
He's
nipples
actually a
about how
nice
much
guy,
crime.
as far as I remember, which is surprising because
Yeah,
Han is described as having like strafed his pleasure dome or something in this book.
yeah. Because normally huts are just portrayed as like always criminals and
Hmm.
like
Always
it's like
fat.
that. It's like like one member of the race can ruin it for the entire kind of race. Like it's like what's a good example? Well, huts are like a really good example. What's a really another good example? Like all
Rhodians are all
Trandoshan
hunters.
Trandoshans are all like
Hmm.
bounty hunters or hunters themselves. Which I think their society does evolve around hunting or something like that. But
Yes,
like I know all of them can be hunters.
it gets very
Like
redundant.
yeah, it's like you see like a like or like Twilight dancers or like or Twilights or dancers. That sort of shit. Like no, not all of them.
Yeah, all Twilights are slaves.
Yeah, like slaves to the D.
Did you pick up on the female that was all over Han at the nightclub? I think she was described as having like white hair and like tan skin.
Yeah, like he walked in there and she was all like over him. He was like, "Oh yeah, let's just do that, but later." And she's like, "Oh well." Went off and found a new target, new mark.
Well, she never got the chance because Han was like running out of there in a firefight because the damn
Yeah,
corporate sector. Yeah, that's Pluvo's whole fucking plan. As he knew the Falcon wasn't going to be up to the regulations on the planet, so he's going to lure Han there, get paid, and let the corporate sector fucking arrest his ass. But Han wasn't having any of that, and he forced him to stay there, and that's when he sicked the fucking dinko on him. And I also like the little note there of when they're trying to escape and they're firing at each other. There's like this disco ball type thing that exploded as they were running out.
yeah, and they also fucked with
The
like the
gravity.
G. Yeah,
Oh
made
yeah,
everybody kind of like smack on the ground.
yeah, I forgot. It's like a gravity club where everyone can be floating around on the dance floor.
Yeah, because it also describes like the dancers were like they were floating and dancing at the same time, and like Han, like did he shoot it? I think he shot it. I think or he did something with the generator to
Hmm.
pretty much the gravity to be more heavier. So everybody kind of like smashed at the, was stuck on the ground, couldn't really move because the G's were too fucking strong.
Kind of reminds me of what happens later in the book.
To that, that's also something that made me laugh.
Okay, so they pull some, typical Star Wars shit, tricking the corporate security and getting the Falcon out of there. Then they arrive at the next planet, which had a really weird name, something with an S. But basically, they come to this planet where these outlaw techs are, and they're going to use their money to trick out the Falcon with the new sensor so they don't end up in similar trouble like they did on Darun. And that's when we get introduced to Jess, aka the fucking quest giver. And she basically gives the rundown on Han that her father has gone missing. All these other people are going missing. What'd you say?
His name is Doc, because
Yeah,
Han and
Doc.
Han deals with Doc at this outlaw technicians area, but Doc is missing, so his daughter Proto Leia
Yes.
Jessa is in control of it.
Mm-hmm. Funny enough, I think, yeah, outlaw tech is actually used in the Edge of the Empire RPG for one of the specializations.
Yeah, I mean, when you're trying to fit your ship to go to the Galactic Ley Line, I mean, you have to get.
Welcome to the Outlaw Star podcast. Katarl, stupidest fucking name.
Oh my god! People who listen to this, like, what the fuck are they ranting on about now?
Katarl, isn't that Hintaro?
Kuro.
But he meets up with Jess, and as she's trying to rope him in to helping her track down her father and all these other missing people, they get attacked by the corporate security. They come in with a Corvette, but they only let out 4 fighters before the Corvette fucks off to get more reinforcements. And we're gonna find out later that there's a butt fucking traitor is the one that fucking told them of the location of where their base may be. Mm-hmm.
Let's go over the fact of when you say 4 fighters, you think, oh yeah, that's not much, but the people on the ground, their defenses were only good for kind of a bigger shit. They didn't have anything by fighters, right? But they did have these Z95 headhunters there, right? Which are supposed to be, if you think of an X-wing, but not as
It's got less
armed.
wings, less of frame.
Yeah, it only has it's described in the book. Funny enough, they have 3 blasters, but I think most of the models I've seen as headhunters they only have 2.
Yeah.
But besides the point. Most of these people on the ground don't have a lot of combat time, so Han kind of has to step in since the Falcon is getting refitted to be this harvest container to go to this other planet they have to go to.
Mm-hmm.
But he pretty much has to instruct them, and they have this cool dogfight segment, and it gets pretty, it surprisingly it's really, really good.
See, this is where I start thinking that the author definitely has some military experience, because you could tell he's having a lot of fun writing this and putting out all the details, weighing out how this is going to go, because he factors in the experience of both pilots, the specs of their ships, which one has speed, which one has maneuverability, and their discipline and how they deal with the firefight.
Yeah, and it's also a really cool thing. It's he described one of the headhunters was piloted by I think it was a brother, because there's 2 brothers flying, and one of them got shot down. Well, the blaster bolt from the or blaster can or whatever these things were using went through the headhunter, and it described pretty much got cut in half by this this bolt and
bisected.
I'm reading it Jesus.
Yeah, that's
I
what
would
happens.
not want to be a pilot in Star Wars.
I mean,
that bad.
I thought it was a cool note too that Han knew they were their weakest links, so he had them sit back at the base so everyone's escaping to buy them time, and hopefully, if fighters do get by, they'll at least have those 2 brothers there to stop them. But they got blown the fuck out by one of the fighters already.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the end of that battle, there was only him. Oh yeah, Jessa was also in the air.
Yeah, I think it was Han, the Lafrarian alien, and Jess, but 2 of their headhunters were destroyed.
Yeah. And what they described these? Oh yeah, and also the cool thing and the very smart thing that Han also was telling these guys, the corporate fighters were really fast, but in space. The moment they got down in the atmosphere, they kind of got slower, and they kind of used that to their advantage because the headhunter could turn faster and maneuver. So it's kind of like it wasn't like really like this really detailed and intricate like dogfighting thing. Like it felt like it was reading something out of like World War II. It's like different fighters operate in different
Mm-hmm.
altitudes and stuff like that. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, I could picture pretty well the dogfighting maneuvers that are being done here, and I liked how they characterized the IRD ace that was leading these corporate fuckers that Han was fighting, because it was basically just Han tangling with their leader this whole time as everyone else was fighting the minions, and like
Yeah.
the Brian Daley establishes like the nemesis that Han's against really well without giving him any like screen time by basically like you hear Han's like own internal thoughts like, oh, this guy, I bet he's fresh out of the academy, top marks, top scores, but he's looking to make a name for himself. And like he kind of just chalked that all up to why this asshole was going in for all these showy moves, trying to get a clean kill on Han, because he didn't just want to vape him, get done with it. He wanted to make a show of it, which Han used to his advantage because he did some maneuver where he like snap rolled around to face him and blew him up because he got taken off surprise basically.
Yeah, he like I said, he also used the planet's atmosphere and got
Mm-hmm.
him like a little enough where the corporate securities fighter couldn't be use its speed kind of against Han here. So it was pretty much like a maneuver battle, which Han won at the end,
Mm-hmm.
blasted the guy out of the sky.
I think sometime before this battle, we hear like some reference to Han potentially being in the Imperial military, and I think this is like the first of where we hear about that in his backstory.
Yeah, yeah. He said he was pretty much his commanding officer used perjury against him, and the only person that believed him was a Wookiee, which was obviously Chewie.
Mm-hmm.
They pretty much he got drummed out of probably the Imperial military is what I'm probably thinking because Han did grow up on Corellia, so that would make more sense. I think in the movie Solo that also
Yeah.
happened, but in a kind of a different take. Because in that movie, Han joined the Imperial Army, but I don't think any of you he ever joined the
Well,
army.
there was actually a deleted scene in Solo where they show him in the Imperial like fighter academy, but they like demoted him and kicked
Yeah,
him down in the army.
yeah. So yeah, he did some maneuvers that they didn't like, and they kicked him to be in the army, in the front line, some mud planet. I forget the planet called.
Yep. So yeah, they fight off the corporate fighters on their planet there, taking heavy losses. A few of the corporate fighters actually strafed the outlaw tech base before they killed them all. So they probably killed a lot more people,
Yeah,
which sucks, but
yeah. Just had to evacuate the planet too, because there is a traitor
hmm
among them, obviously, and it got me thinking that who it was. But it was actually kind of neat how that goes down.
yes, that's a high point of the book for me. So after
Yeah,
that's where after that Han says, "Okay, I'll do this job." Then he fucks off to the agriculture world, Oron, where he meets a based Recon, who is one of the people on the job there. Where basically all these people who have had lost ones or loved ones taken, they all like band together for this job to raid this data center on Oron and find out what the fuck is happening. And Recon meets up with Han, and what was his position? Recon was like some type of technical.
Recon was an administrator, but you're also forgetting one character, and that's Bollocks. And inside of Bollocks is Blue
Yes,
Max.
yes. Thank you for reminding me, Bollocks and Blue Max, because they're actually like major characters for these Brian Daley novels that'll appear in each of them, and they actually play
Actually,
major roles in this one.
yeah, they're actually pretty cool. Basically, let me describe. Bollocks is described as kind of like an industrial droid, right? But pretty much they bought him. Well, Jessa bought him from somewhere, and they pretty much emptied out his chest cavity. And Blue Max is like this blue kind of like small data esque um, uh, droid that can't really move its own, so it has to stay within Bollocks. And they kind of have like this symbiosis together, but they actually work well together as a team. And they have to
Mm-hmm.
bring both of them together to meet Recon here because they can use Blue Max has to scan kind of like this data center. Recon is working kind of undercover as an administrator to get to figure out where all these people are going because the corporate sector, like Dave he was telling, all these people are missing, so they have to figure out where they're getting taken away to.
Yeah. Um. I always imagined Blue Max as having this very childlike voice, which contrasts pretty funnily with fucking Bollocks, because he has like this leisurely drawl, as they describe it. He talks like this, how may I be at your service, Captain Solo? But Blue Max has like all this energy in his voice.
I want to also mention that later on, they also did say that Bollocks did serve as a regimental commander's droid during
Yes,
the Clone War, which mentioning this was before, like, the movies, like the prequels, and that kind of was like, really, now that's interesting. They mentioned this, back
they
all
don't
the way
say
back
which
in the day.
side either, too.
Yeah, it really makes you think, like, was there, because now we got the clone. Obviously, we have like the Separatists and the
Hmm.
Republic, but like this is like when Star Wars is becoming a thing. The only other mention of Clone Wars was obviously in
Just like
the
one
first
line,
movie,
basically.
yeah, by Obi-Wan when he was telling Luke. So it's like interesting. It's like this is the only other time I can remember that the Clone
Hmm.
Wars was mentioned back in the day before it. It's the Clone Wars we know now.
Yeah, there's like a lot of weirdness regarding the Clone Wars in like the prequel era EU stuff. Like, I think the impression was that they assumed that it was Jedi fighting clones, which isn't how it turned out in George's mind, but it's always funny when you see the details of that pop up.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird Clone War s stuff,
They
but
also imagined the Clone Wars happening in like a much wider time period too, like 20 or 30 years ago.
yeah,
But we just have the fortune of hindsight. They didn't know.
yeah. We read these in 2021, and this book, like I said, came out in like 1979, 80. So
Hmm. What was I on about? Yeah, so they meet up, the crew and Rekon, they meet up with others, the other people who have lost loved ones to do this data raid. And we have Torm, who's like the son of like this, what was it, like some type of like farming baron or some shit on a planet Kale.
yeah, something like that.
And the corporate sector has taken his brother and dad. And we meet Atuar and Paka, who are two like Felinoid Triani that lost their father and husband,
Hmm.
and Rekon, who's lost his nephew. And Rekon, he's described as like this big, powerful dude, but he's also like a university scholar. And like I guess his nephew was like saying some things that the corporate sector didn't agree with.
Yeah, he was pretty much, since he was kind of like, I think he was either a teacher or like the head of like the school.
Hmm.
Uh, his um his nephew kind of like could like enjoy the benefits of that spot, because not everybody in the corporate authority could like go to like academy or higher tiers of learning, right? So obviously, because you're the nephew, or the nephew of the the big shot involved, you can have access to said
Hmm.
educations and this life of luxury. But I think his nephew saw the disparity in what was happening, and he was really vocal about it, which caused Retcon here to kind of like uh, kind of back him in the corner, where he had to kind of like resign because he was getting a lot of because the academy where he was teaching at or in charge of, there's a lot of high prominent children of
Yeah.
higher up corporate sector authority members. So it's like he kind of had to resign because of his nephew, but his nephew got snagged.
Hmm.
That's what he was doing. What he was doing.
Yep. I mean, it makes sense that someone like at the university and a youth will be the one speaking out against the corporate sector.
Yeah.
But they get the crew together and then they go down to the data center to get. They were looking specifically for. What do they mention? Like they were looking for signs of like where all their resources were going to. Where data trails ended, pointing towards whichever system will be holding all these people. Because Orin is an agri world. That food's going to be going somewhere, and I think they were trying to trace where some of that food may be going. That's storing a large amount of people.
Yeah, they were doing a whole
Hmm.
bunch of shit. Max had to be hooked up to the kind of like the computer core, and when he did his thing.
Yep, and an alarm is tripped after some time, though, that sets off alarms. And Blue Max, he has a really smart idea here of setting off fake alarms all over the planet. Fires, chemical leaks, all types of shit to like split up the security, which was really smart on his part. And then, sometime before that, I wanted to mention this is where we officially learn that there's a traitor in the group because Rekon tells Han, and he wants Han and Chewie to kind of be like his lookouts somewhat for whoever it is. Han at this point isn't trusting fucking anyone though, like not even Rekon. And yeah, the alarm gets sounded. Rekon makes sure he's the last person as they're running out because he doesn't want to, get shot in the back by anyone. There's actually this really cool shootout. You remember this? The shootout in like the stairwell where like they're descending. Yeah, they're descending because they're trying to get to the underground garage. And there's like corporate sector dudes coming up above, shooting at them with riot guns.
I remember that they were trying to go down the chute to go to the
Mm-hmm.
garage, and that's when Han kind of took over the heavy blaster emplacement they were putting. Because I remember like he had to like shoot like the crew that was manning the gun before they got the
Yeah.
plate up. Then he hopped on the gun, and he was pretty much like he was pinning the guys that were after them. But then he had to swivel the gun and attack people that were like above him, and swivel it again to attack people coming below him.
Yeah.
Then they jumped into the chute to the parking area and found like some sort of like hover sled or whatever they used to
Mm-hmm.
escape.
Yep, so they all pile onto that. There's a pretty lengthy escape sequence of them going through the grain. I think they hijack one of those giant agribots on the planet too at some point, right?
Yeah, Blue Max actually, I think Han puts Blue Max in charge of one of them and pretty much commands Blue Max to do some like some distraction and helping. Which brings it to what happens next of Chewie getting captured within the
Yes.
grain.
Because I think there's like a moment where Chewie knows they need more distraction for them to escape, so he kind of sacrifices himself to get captured.
Yeah, and Han got knocked out to prevent him from
Yeah.
going and getting captured as well, which was in hindsight smart because like once Han was kind of away, he kind of noted to himself that going down there would have been a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. So after that, they're still not out of the woods because when they get into orbit trying to escape, there's a fucking Invincible class cruiser, which funny enough, I remember from Thrawn's Revenge, that fucking Empire War mod. Have you seen what it looks like?
I probably have, but I probably need to see another picture.
It's really goofy looking. Hold on. Let me get it for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of goofy looking shit. EU.
All right. Yeah, it's
You
this.
sure it wasn't a dreadnought?
I think they did describe it as a dreadnought. Yeah, it's a dreadnought.
Yeah, they described it as a dreadnought. So I pictured it just as a dreadnought in my mind. But that does look, it really does look goofy. That one does.
It fits with the OT aesthetic, a bulky, blocky looking almost.
Yeah.
Cylinder shaped. But yeah. Oh yeah, I don't know if we mentioned or not, but the Falcon is like encased in this like barge shell that they used to infiltrate Oron. That was like, yeah, because I remember now. As they had the ship loaded, like someone on the planet mistaked it for a regular barge and filled it with grain, which was slowing down the Falcon somewhat trying to escape. But it works in their favor because Han uses that opportunity to dump all the grain in front of the dreadnought and then have the barge piece break off and smash into it to damage it. Then they fuck off out of there.
Yeah, they go to their next objective. But in the transit to that, some interesting plot points comes up.
Yes, Rekon kills himself by shooting himself in the back.
Because Recon dies, but in this book they described it as a needlepoint laser or
Yeah,
something
they do a lot of weird stuff with blasters because the fucking traitor comes up behind Rekon and shoots him with a needle beam, which I'm just assuming is just a super precise shot that you can just toggle on your blaster. Well, even before that though, we saw Rekon just brutalize a fucking corporate security dude with a disruptor like full charge, point blank.
Yeah, he shot the guy and he was in like it's described as like this hover van that had like a turret on top. And like he uses like the disruptor pistol and like he overcharged it, right? And he shot the guy he was piloting it, causing it to kind of like turns like flip sideways, crash on the ground.
Yeah, he doesn't have much qualms about fucking murdering a dude cold as a fucking scholar.
Well, he has to go rescue his nephew.
Yep.
It's like He's not going to be passive about it. He needs to, well, the corporate sector is still in your loved one. I doubt you're going to play nice with him.
Nope. But yeah, this is where we get the little murder mystery section because Han he's to find out who the fuck killed Rekon because Torm, as far as he knew, was in the gun well at the top. Someone was at the gun well at the bottom, and he couldn't confirm if there was ever a moment where they weren't manned because he didn't fire any of the shots at not the cruiser, but the dreadnought. But he does get a clue from well, not a clue, but like the exact location of where they're keeping all their loved ones at the Stars End facility on Midas 7, I think it was, which he scrawled
Yeah.
in on a little stylus as he was dying and hid. So Han sees that, and he has to devise some way to find out who the killer was. So, he knows it wasn't Bollocks, because Bollocks was
Yeah.
with him at the cockpit for a time, I think. So the suspects were Paka, Atuar, and Torm.
Yeah, I thought it was Pac and Ator, to be honest with you, because they have a more thing to lose. Because Paka was also captured. The little cub here was captured by the corporate security, and like it was described as like Paka didn't used to speak, but after they got kind of interrogated slash tortured by the corporate security, like they don't speak anymore. So I was thinking, I was like, yeah, maybe you know you know she has more to lose. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, because she lost her husband, and now her cub is kind of under like control. So maybe she's kind of forced with the arm behind her back to do this this sort of like espionage s type thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
was proven wrong.
That's kind of what I was thinking the first time I read this, that Paka is like the sleeper agent. But no,
Yeah, brainwashed. Yeah,
it's the fucking asshole Torm who did it because he wants to become he wants to basically take his place as leading their little farm empire, whatever, on his planet, which they captured his father and brother for. So that was his little
yeah. Well,
reward.
he got a little reward too because he was running from Han, right? Because there was like this section where Allure and they pretty much both had blasters. It was
Mm.
Torm and Allure, and
Yeah,
like they kind of
Han
like
fucked with him because like he
yeah,
told Atuar and Torm, "Hey, I think the other guy is the killer. Take this blaster and be ready if he tries anything." And he didn't give any charge for either of their blasters.
yeah, and like the cool thing is the way he kind of figured out who the traitor was is they kind of how did he do it? Like he told him that like input where the some sort of planet is, and like Torm entered the
Yeah, he
wrong
gave them
planet.
each a specific thing to look up about the planet. One was navigation data, one was like planetary shit, and they all typed in different numbers for Midas. Like one was Midas 3, one was Midas 5, I think. But Torm got it correct, Midas 7, because of course he would know it since he's the fucking traitor.
Yeah, so like after that, like he kind of like they have a scuffle, and he runs from Han. Well, because Torn doesn't know the Falcon's inner layers, or like rooms of that sort of thing. He kind of runs and pulls himself in the emergency exit where he says a little thing to him. Go ahead, you tell the rest.
Yeah, once his dumbass realizes he's in the airlock, he immediately tries to beg to Han, to like, oh, let me out. I was just doing this to save myself. Oh, Han, I can get you a reward for the corporate sector. And like, Han has had like basically the same arc he's had in the first movie of like scoundrel and rogue with a heart of gold, realizing he actually wants to help these people just to help them, sort of. Because like, Torm is basically telling him, hey, I know your reputation. I know you're just a smuggler, a mercenary, a cutthroat. It's just business and all that. And I can cut a deal with you since you're a businessman. And Han kind of looks at his reflection for a little bit, and all he says to him is, "Ask Rekon," and he just fucking vents him out into space, and Torm is dead.
Yeah, just like that. So it kind of worked out for that guy at the end.
Yeah, exactly what he fucking deserves.
If you're a traitor, that's what you get. Stupid. He kind of ran into the. It's kind of funny. He ran into the area where he pretty much based himself in hindsight.
Yes,
Oh
but
well,
that
nothing like
that
that can
narrows
last.
down the crew. So it's just the Triani and the droids and Han now. They know where they need to go, but they need to figure out how the hell they're going to get into Star's End, because that place is locked down, as you would imagine. So they jump to like just outside of the system, and they're just sitting there for hours trying to think of like how the hell they're going to get in.
It's it's not hours. It's they've been there for days. Because I remember reading, there were they were the Falcons' food supplies ran out, so they were literally using
Damn.
emergency rations,
Yeah,
and
that's
they were
right.
sucking on like broth and stuff,
They
and
used a
like
weird word to describe, I guess, hours at some point because they said time parts, which I assumed was just hours, but it's a weird sci-fi word, time parts.
yeah. But I like it sounds like okay, but then it was like, oh yeah, the we have no supplies, and we're living off the emergency supplies. We have to bring soup.
Hmm.
But I actually get a lucky break because like the person that stars in, like these corporate security guys, right? They're kind of like the stereotypical rich people that they need their entertainment, and
Hmm.
like they kind of intercepted this thing from the what was it, the Imperial Entertainment or Entertainers Guild, that they were lacking like well they couldn't make like the performers couldn't go to the Stars End or something like
Hmm.
that. So like Han came up with like this really cool idea. Why don't we just say we're the replacements? And like Han gets to work, and he takes Bollocks and he kind of like repaints Bollocks, and like he kind of takes it. He described it as like he takes his clothes and makes his own little outfit up.
Dude, he went all out for this fake performing troupe. He got like pieces of the ship and like made rings for a fucking Atawar to wear so she could jingle around when she dances. He made like a fake little hoop for Paka.
Yeah, so basically, Allura was supposed to be the dancer. Pocket was supposed to be like kind of like the aerobics, like jumping back and forth, that sort of thing. And Han was supposed to be the marksman, trick shooter.
Hmm.
And Bollocks was well, Bollocks. I don't want to go too ahead of what
Yeah.
his thing's supposed to be, but yeah, so that was basically the whole gist. And they were going to jump out of like they were going to jump like out of the system, then go back in real fast to kind of act like they kind of
Yeah.
got back into the system to kind of like fool the corporate security people into like, oh yeah, you really are who you are, which it worked. Funny enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in typical Star Wars fashion, their fucking goofy ass disguises gets them very far because they come in and when they lower the ramp, there's like 8 million fucking corpsec dudes with a major staring them down with all types of guns, and they pull their performer act of, oh, we didn't get any notice of being rejected. We're the replacement group. We're here to entertain you, and they buy it, of course.
Of course. And they meet the
Your favorite character.
yeah, they meet the I always picture this guy. He's pretty much kind of like the director. What was his title again? He was
He
the
was the head of corporate security, but they called him Vice Prex Herkin.
yeah, Vice Pres Herkin. We meet this guy, and he's kind of like I'm going to describe his ass. He's kind of like that. Like again, I'll use this word, a stereotypical snobby rich guy
Hmm.
who's you're there for his entertainment and just his entertainment only, and screw everything else. Basically, he had a what was it? It was an Executioner X
Yeah, a Mark X,
combat
he called it.
gladiator droid. Yeah, and he had a really big hard one for watching droids get destroyed, right? And like he was like, "Oh, we got the droid right." Well, poor Bollocks, he was just used for like just like working and like carrying stuff. He wasn't made to be some gladiatorial fighting. Well, he kind of got forced in that situation because like um what was it? It was Allura and her cub had to do some like kind of distract the the higher ups there while Han took Blue Max
Hmm.
and were hacking the system to try to look for like the cells within Star's End. And they run into some, of course, they're running into a lot of issues there.
Yep. Give me one moment. I'm gonna stop the recording. I just want to listen back to hear how this sounds, just to make sure everything's in order, and then I'll re-resume it. Okay, so we were talking about Star's End, their infiltration. You just gave a basic rundown of how they got in there, the murder boner that Herkin has for droids fighting each other. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about the Mark X a little bit because I picked it up my second time around reading this. That it's like this big armored centipede type thing with like rows upon legs of like weapons, and it was like huge too, like towering over Bollocks. That was a pretty fucking cool image, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to search for see if there's any pictures of it. I can.
I
I'll
hope
pull
there
up.
is. I kind of it reminds me of the centipede monster or droid from the Umbara arc from Clone Wars, because they had like some centipede railgun monster there that was like a droid. I don't know
There's
if you
also an
remember that.
awesome of 40K too. The Necrons have a kind of like I forget they're like I forget what they're called, but they kind of look like centipedes from like the game.
Hmm.
I don't know too much, you know. They actually it's tomb something, but I digress. Um, yeah, I can't find any pictures of it unfortunately.
Oh, what a shame.
I'm looking for it, but
There may be one because Star's End was actually adapted into a comic. But yeah. Um. So yeah, Bollux is forced to fight against that droid because they assume he's just a battle bot. Han stalks off to go and look for the people in the little data center, and Atuar and Paka were trying to stall, but unfortunately, Hurricane kind of hurries them along, and that's where we get Bollux in his fight. But Han eventually finds out after hacking into a little thing there where the prisoners are. He finds everyone's loved ones, and he finds Chewie too. But actually, it wasn't Han hacking; it was Blue Max. So Blue Max discovers that they're all in like this weird time stasis containment thing, which is very unfitting for the setting. But this is the '70s, so they didn't know any better. Setting wasn't established, but it's just always one of those funny things to see early on a material like this.
that is the famous wife of the
Oh, did you post something to me?
group.
That's what she looks like.
Yeah,
She's like
there's
she looks like a Dune character.
well, yeah, and this is the bodyguard that we forgot to mention, the snake guy.
Oh yeah, Ul Rashan. That guy was actually pretty cool as like a villain. This like murdery lizard like dude who's apparently like a really good
I
marksman.
are you sure you got the right droid? Because the Mark X execution, I'm looking at it right now. There, it doesn't look like no centipede.
They described it. I'm pretty sure as like having rows upon rows. Oh yeah, that's what Ul
Yeah, well,
Rashan looks like.
yeah, he looks like a Komodo dragon,
He
you know.
does.
But no, this the executioner droid had like treads.
Treads, yes. I
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
centipedes for some
Because look,
reason, but
this is
yes, treads. That
yeah. See,
looks
that's what it
so
looks like.
fucking lame compared to what I imagined.
Yeah, the same here.
What the hell? Delete that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep my imagination. That looks like shit.
but we're gonna keep it because I want to destroy your
It looks
imagination.
so stupid. It's like the Sun Crusher with treads.
I mean, you know, maybe I can commission, you know, having that art.
It looks fucking stupid. Oh my god, I'm gonna click away from that.
Describe what it looks like. Describe what
No,
it looks
no,
like
they
real
can look
quick.
up that cringe if they want to. I'm fucking moving on.
Mark X Executioner
Stupid
Droid.
as
Look it
hell.
up and laugh.
Stupid as fuck.
It looks so cool.
No, it
He
doesn't.
thinks it looks cool. He's being
You
difficult.
know what? We're gonna see much cooler droids later on in one of these books. But for now,
You're not as cool as the Mark X.
shut up. So yeah, they find where everyone is, but they need to think of a way to get them out. There's a quick moment where Han and Atuar and Pakwa meet back up because they need to keep up the illusion that they're a roving gang of performers, and they bring everyone together to Bollux to fight that stupid ass droid. Bollux surprisingly wins against it. Do you remember how he won? Didn't he like rip out its guts or something?
Okay, this is how because Han had Blue Max with him, right? And Blue Max was like, "Yeah, Bollocks is going to get killed without me. Bring me to Bollocks." Han was like, "No, we got to look for the prisoners and stars in." And Blue Max was, "I'm not going to help you into you put me back into Bollocks and let me help him." So then Han concedes, and he pretty much runs up there and pretty much puts Blue Max, or he gives Blue Max to Bollocks, and they pretty much he puts him in, and pretty much he kind of like they they do something together. I think pretty much Blue Max tells Bollocks through the droid stuff how to defeat the Mark X, and there's because it's pretty much this droid has treads. So this clunky droid figure out a way to like time his movements to get underneath of this droid and kind of like pulls the wires and stuff. It causes the Mark X to go like ape shit, like firing like flamethrowers and everything else. That's why. Then that's pretty much how they defeat it.
Yep. And then Hurricane basically figures out that they're not exactly who they say they are, so he's gonna have Han duel against Ula Rashan, his bodyguard, the fucking Komodo dragon, to kill him. And
Oh,
Han
look at
is
this.
what? What's up? What's up?
I found art of the battle between Bollocks and the droid here.
Oh yeah, they give him that little shield. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that looks pretty neat. I mean, because I know probably the droid doesn't look as cool as you thought in your head, but like it's still pretty neat. They actually have some art
Hmm.
that kind of goes with that scene.
Well, they were spoiled for a time at this point in the Star Wars EU. They got the D6 books coming out, these novels. I mean, there was a dark period right after it, but still.
Here's what Blue Max looks like inside Bollocks.
Yeah, I've seen art of them. It's not really accurate completely to what they're described in the books, but at least it's there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sending it currently. Discord is notorious for slow
Yes.
upload, or at least for me. Yeah, yeah. Come on, in a minute.
Oh,
Yeah,
there it
right
is.
there. See,
Yeah.
that's.
Actually, this
You
one
see, he
doesn't
kind
look
of
too
hides on
bad,
it.
except Bollocks doesn't really look like the simian he's described with a tall upper body. They just gave him the body of a protocol droid, basically. But that's kind of accurate.
Yeah, that's kind of what it kind of looks like in a way. He has like the hollow with Blue Max in there.
A KX droid actually wouldn't be too bad representation of Bollocks, because it does have that kind of simian structure to it with its upper body. A little bit. Legs are a little too long, though.
Yeah, that's true.
But, what was I going on about? Oh, yeah, the duel with Ul Rashan and Han. So Han is given like a very low charged blaster here. He's basically expected to die in this duel. And he does something clever here because he had Blue Max like overload the reactor and he didn't listen to Blue Max's warning about what was going to happen. So when the duel begins, Ul-Rashan takes a shot at Han. Han ducks back and he allows Ul-Rashan to accidentally hit the power plant generator there, and it basically takes down the what was it? It exploded, and I think it also fucked with their anti-concussion field, which kicked in as soon as the explosion went on, and it fucking
Yeah.
launched them almost into orbit in the tower.
Wait, you're also forgetting one thing. At the bottom of Star's End, they were creating these really super dense alloys that also played a part in like containing the explosion,
Hmm.
which causes Star End to pretty much launch into orbit. Which is when I first was told of this, I was laughing out loud. I'm just picturing like this heist or this prisoner breakout like happening on this like tower that got launched into space by this large explosion. To me, it's just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, because like Achuar and Paka escaped on a Falcon at some point, and were like, they were looking over at this, and they blink in 1 second, the fucking tower is gone. They're looking around like, oh, what the hell happened? And then Achuar looks up, and she's like, oh my god, Han, what did you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of looked outside the window like, oh god.
Yep.
It was quite funny. The best part, in my opinion, of the novel.
So yeah, they use that chaos there to run over the prisoners and get them all put out of time stasis. They meet up with Doc, they meet up with Chewie, and they pretty much stage this revolt with all the prisoners fighting against the Corpsec dudes who they know that, their safety isn't going to last forever because the tower is eventually going to fall back down to fucking Midas and explode. So it's just a matter of reinforcements for the corporate security coming and picking them up, and them devising some way to get all the prisoners out. So there's just some passages here describing the firefights between them. I don't know how much you want to go into that part, if you had any thoughts.
Well, basically, what happens when it comes to the firefights at this point, like they basically Han gets reunited with Chewie and with Doc, and they're kind of like first there's like talk between him and the
The
I
Vice
don't want to call
Prex.
him, yeah, the Vice Prex. It's just a weird name, the Vice Prex, and like they're kind of like negotiating, like, oh Han, bring us with you, or we'll let you go or something like that. And Han's
Hmm.
like, yeah, we're not doing that. But they're trying to get flanked because there is a corporate security
Some type of
assault
ship.
craft,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of latched on to like the bottom, and they're pretty much trying to flank the prisoners, right? So basically, then the vice prex tells Han, "Oh yeah, just surrender now." But Han's like, "Yeah, now we're not doing that either." So they kind of fight it out, and they have to worry about it because off of the assault craft, they're bringing up a heavy, one of those again, one of those really heavy
Mm-hmm.
blaster emplacement guns. But what do? They somehow get on board of the assault craft and pretty much cut the exit off that way to the vice prex and the people up there.
Yeah, it gets kind of foggy to read at some points in this section,
Yeah,
but basically Chewie leads some of the prisoners to disable the assault craft somehow, leaving them with no way out. But the Falcon is coming around, and they devise some type of plan here, also kind of foggy, by taking like one of the tubes on the surface of Star's End that is attached to the Falcon somehow with the tractor, maybe, and they're going to use that to ferry all the prisoners out.
yes, that sounds about correct. And basically, when that is happening, like out of the clear blue, the vice prex comes out and he's like, Hana, I didn't tell any of the other guys to come with me. Please take me with you. You can just leave my wife." The vice prex wife was described as like a really large
Really
woman,
fat.
right? But he didn't like her when she was around him, and he kind of gave like that, like he loathed her. He was like, "Oh God." And he was like, oh yeah, you don't take my wife either. Like, you just take me." But it turns out his wife shot his stupid ass in the back, which is poetic, allowing Han and the rest of them pretty much to escape safely.
I think sometime before that too, Ul Rashan appears and he actually shoots fucking Bollocks in the head, and Han kills
He
Ul Rashan.
does, yeah. But luckily for Bollocks here, his he pretty much Blue Max backed up his data,
Mm-hmm.
well, most of it, onto where Blue Max is. So he kind of like lives on yet again.
Yeah, these droids are kind of the fucking MVPs in this book,
Yeah,
TBH.
yeah, yeah. Because Han didn't like him at first. It's described that Han didn't like droids, but like at the end, Han kind of like likes him now because
Yeah.
he actually did go out of his way. I mean, because Bollocks did kind of save Han from getting killed by the Komodo dragon. I'm not even going to pronounce his name because I'm bad with names. I'm just going to call him Komodo Dragon. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what he looked like. That's what the picture is. If people want to look him up, you'll see. He looks like a Komodo Dragon.
Yep. So, with everyone gathered there, there's a little passage there of Paka reunited with his father, looking out of the viewport of the Millennium Falcon, or the tube. I forget. He might have been in the tube, actually, but he looks down and he basically sees the tower crash down and explode, destroying Star's End.
Yeah, Paga's father, I think, helps Han try
Yeah,
to flip it.
he actually went back to help Han.
Yeah. And then they kind of fly off and they look down and they see like stars and crash and explode
Mm-hmm.
back to the planet, which everybody else, like, the Viprex wife and most of the poor Espo guys are gone. They're
Yep.
dead.
Well, fuck him. I like the name, the
Yeah,
slang name he used for them, Espo.
yeah, that's why I keep referring to them as Espos.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to use like corporate security so people know what we're talking about. But like we're pretty much at the end of that story, so I'll just call them Espos.
Yep. So they return back to the outlaw techs on their new hidden base, Erder, and everyone gets reunited. Everyone gets their happy ending slides here, except for Rekon's nephew, because Rekon is fucking dead thanks to Torm. But yeah, Doc and Jess reunite, and they're basically talking about giving the Falcon the upgrade it needs and whatever. What happens to? I think the Atriani are just gonna fuck off back to their colony.
Yeah, Doc, I think is going to talk to Raikon's nephew, and try to offer him something.
Mm. So he sort of gets somewhat of a happy ending, some type of future.
Yeah,
And Han and Jess have this one last romantic interaction. She gets over under his little greatcoat and they walk over together. And Chewie is just kind of like smiling at Han as he's going to repair the Falcon and put in the upgrades.
Han's going to get some space ass.
And that's how Stars Ends concludes.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty cool book. Going into it blind, it was pretty neat.
Yep. That was Brian Daley's first Star Wars novel, too. and one of the first novels ever for Star Wars. This and Splinter of the Mind's Eye was all that was out, and he did pretty goddamn good considering. I was also reading an interview here that he specifically chose Han for his spinoff too when they asked him who to do.
Yeah, like this is a book that kind of like started like the EU like novels and stuff, which I'm kind of glad because this book was actually pretty good. It was actually a good start to like the whole like expanded universe here.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read Splinter of the Whispering Eye yet. So.
Yeah, well, the next two books are pretty good, but I think after rereading, I still like Star's End the most. This is where I think people start to feel a little bit more like Indiana Jones. Some people describe them as
Well,
not
because you
not
have
in a
picture.
negative light.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, you probably picture because that's Han Solo played by Harrison Ford, and you're thinking, yeah, because I think in the '80s, that's when Indiana Jones used to be real big. Hell, I'm a big indie fan, to be honest with you. I think my favorite Indiana Jones is The Last Crusade. People like the Temple of Doom, but it's not really my favorite. I mean, the Raiders of the Lost Ark's cool, but the Crystal Skull, that was kind of. I mean, that was okay, but it wasn't my favorite. I kind of like The Last Crusade because I've seen that the most.
Indiana Jones has its own EU.
Does it now?
Yeah, it's got like its own books and shit. I don't know anything else about it besides that it exists.
I think, yeah, they also have their own games, which I heard aren't too bad either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The next one is Han Solo's Revenge, which you don't know jack shit about that. I'm correct in assuming, Spark.
Yeah, I'm going to go into that one blind as well.
Yeah, this one is pretty fun. If I remember all the right beats, it kind of follows the same similar pacing as this one. But Bollocks and Blue Max, they're in it again. They're kind of like their companions for the rest of these books here. I don't think they get as much attention as they did in this one, but they're still fun to have around.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty cool. I kind of like, I wouldn't mind seeing them again in the books. So
Mm-hmm. This is unfortunately like the only material where they're really showcased in, outside of a really brief scene in the NJO.
yeah, well, when you write it in characters a whole bunch, there's always a chance of them being,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
shit.
a
So
chance of them
it's kind
getting
of
killed
glad.
off by Karen Travis.
Or yeah, that's true. Yeah. Poor Mara, but that's something else for us to rant about another day.
Yes, years on when we get to that.
Yeah, funny enough, like there is so much stuff we have to go through. Like there is like
A
the
lot.
D6 section, like the old D6 books for like tabletop alone is, oh my, that's gonna be like so much content.
Hmm.
And we don't have time about the comics stuff we've read.
Oh yes, I think after we do all the Han Solo novels, we were gonna pivot to Dark Empire, right?
Yeah, we got to pick that apart.
Yes,
There's
we
there's
gotta
a lot
rip
of
that a
things.
new asshole.
Yeah, because that is, oh wow, yeah. So I think Dark Empire, then maybe Dark Times, then we'll see the best for last.
Yes, yes.
Which, the New Republic or Crimson Empire? Which one were we gonna go for last?
After Dark Empire.
Well, after Dark Empire, I was thinking Dark
Oh, Dark
Times that we could
Times,
do.
and then
Then maybe
Crimson
we do,
Empire.
then probably Crimson Empire, then the New Republic comic. I think we'll
Uh,
probably do, maybe.
we'll see.
I
Because
mean, what
I
do
might,
you
because
want?
I might want to alternate with a book at some point between that, but we'll see after we do Dark Empire.
Yeah.
But yeah, I basically got everything I wanted to say out of the way. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, make sure you look up the Mark X Executioner. That's
All right,
Dave's
make sure
favorite
you
girl.
don't do that. This is podcast 1313.
Yeah.
I'm cutting it off here before Spark says something stupid. And
Mark X
goodbye.
Executioner.